What's up? I'm Twitch, the Shield Bearer of Faith. Thank you for being here. I do love doing baptism testimonies, and I have another one for y'all. And like always, no glory or praise is to go to me or really any other person in these stories. Let it go to the Father and to His Son. This is purely the testimony of it. A few weeks ago, before I went down to Florida to help with hurricane relief and do our scouting mission down there with Grindstone. Before that, we had, me and my wife had a big sleepover. My daughter, she loves having friends over, and there's a lot of kids around, and so we had a bunch, man. We had like 14 or 15 kids in my house, including my son. My son was the only boy. That was kind of the rule I made, was that it was girls only, except for my son who lives here, right? And a lot of fun, a lot of music, and the kids just had a blast. Well, also among the kids was some teenage young ladies that my wife asked if they were able to come over as well. She's like, hey, what do you think about that? I was like, I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me. And, I know all of them, right? And we had separate sleeping areas for them in the home, so they could have some space to themselves away from the little kids if they wanted it. But lo and behold, about 11 o'clock at night, after the kids, the little ones, are down, my wife, myself, and these few teenage young ladies are all just having conversations about a lot of stuff. Some of it about life, some of it about future jobs. I'd ask them, what do y'all want to do when you get a little bit older? And then it got late enough and I was tired enough that I was starting to tell them goodnight. I was like, hey, y'all feel free to stay up. I told my wife, I was like, feel free to stay up, but I'm going to head to bed. I love you, and I'll see you in the morning. And then I literally stood up and was putting the chair I was using back at a different table where it goes. As the conversation took a shift, and it caused me to stop, like mid-step, like I was starting to go towards my bedroom. And it got on the conversation of baptism and salvation. And it was very authentic. I didn't plan that. And so I stopped and I orient to it. You got like in tactical environments, you got like an OODA loop, right? So I observed it and then I oriented to it. And I decided I was going to act, right? I decided I was going to go get my chair again and have a seat. And long and short of that was, we spent hours, me, my wife, and these three young ladies, talking about salvation, talking about testimonies, talking about baptism. I think subconsciously there is a significant number of us that believe subconsciously that salvation is inherited somehow. Like it can be passed down. And that, because you might really love and believe in the Messiah and you live your life in his steps, that somehow your kids are just given that and that they never have to make their own choices with that. That's inaccurate. While it does set them up on a sturdier foundation, it leads them in the way they should go so that when they're older, they do not depart from it. They still have to accept salvation on their own. They still have to come to a point of understanding where they ask certain questions, they say certain things, they get to this moment where they decide. It can't be forced on anybody, but where they decide to believe in and follow Yeshua, or Jesus, the Messiah. These teenage young ladies, I see them a lot. I know their parents. I work with their parents. They're good people. But it's not inherited. So the learning lesson, I guess, for us is, do not assume that just because someone has an excellent household or their parents, maybe their dad is Billy Graham, and or with John Piper, any of these big name preachers, right? Maybe their dad is that person. Do not assume that their children know the Father and know his Son. It's not inherited. So when this conversation just kind of showed up in my living room, and I sat back down, and I'm going to partake in that conversation, it's very humbling to me. Hello, it's my beautiful wife. Stand by. We're doing a baptism testimony.
Yay!
Hello, gorgeous.
Hello.
I'll be in just a minute.
Okay, that's fine.
Beautiful.
Bye.
Thank you. Ah, she's gorgeous. I love that woman. So, here I am looking like a rag doll. She looks like a princess. So, I sat back down, had this conversation, and I gave my testimony. I gave why I believe what I believe. I gave why baptism is a thing, where it's at in the Bible as far as like it is commanded by the Messiah that we will do that. It's also among the first things that we saw him do in the text of the Bible. So I get to a point in most of these conversations where we've got to ask two very important questions. One, can you identify a moment in your life where you have given everything, where you've said, I'm done being me, I want to be yours, whatever that looks like. You have to have that moment. That's salvation. You believe with your heart and you confess with your mouth that he is Lord, right? And that usually comes with other steps too. Like for me, guys, it came with confessing worldly sins to people I affected, like that beautiful woman you just saw walk by. When I gave my life, I had to tell her everything I had ever done behind her back. Everything I had ever done that she wasn't going to find out about any other way, but because I knew in here that that was my next step. And then eventually, I got baptized again. And so with the baptism portion, I'll ask people, what does baptism mean to you? And why do you want to be baptized? Those are two separate questions that can sound similar in the answers, though, but it's dependent on the person. And for the most part, there's not really a wrong or right answer. But what I'll tell people is, baptism is the marriage ceremony. It is the public declaration that you are giving your life. You are giving everything you are to the Father and accepting salvation. Now, again, salvation is actually separate from baptism, but the baptism is the public declaration. You can go and be like the majority of Christians in the world and be a Christian on paper if you check a little box that nobody ever sees, but most Christians statistically never share their faith, ever. And they never live their faith, ever. They go and they sit in a pew on Sunday and they think good enough. Did you give your life or did you give Sunday for an hour? Which was it? When the Messiah said to pick up your cross and follow me, which was it? Did he mean literally or figuratively? When he's talking to the rich man and he says, Master, how do I inherit eternal life? Go back, sell everything, and follow me. And the rich man goes away crying because he has many possessions. Does that mean you can't have possessions? No. That means that man was too focused on possessions. He's not living for Christ. He just knows of him. I don't know the lead singer of Third Day or of Casting Crowns, right? You name off whatever band you want. I don't know them. You know of them. You know what I mean? Same goes with the Father and the Messiah. So, I asked those questions for this young lady. We'll call her Jane Doe. So, Jane, where are you at with baptism? Do you want to be baptized? She got to witness a baptism months ago now. And she told me, she said, yes, I do. She said, and during that time when you were in the water with those guys, she said, I had never seen a baptism before. There is a profound peace. She had never seen it. I got chills telling y'all this. That is vital. We have to display our faith. Not in a bragging way, but guys, you should be able to look at me, and the only thing that you should see about me is that I love the Messiah, and I love the Father, and that I'm trying my best to do everything I can every day for them. To live like Christ as my example, to accept salvation, and to know the Father. That's what I hope you all see when you look at me. And so she told me that when she saw that baptism, she felt the pull then. And I even noticed at the time when I saw her, she was crying. I thought it was just a powerful moment. No, it was a powerful moment, but she was being told, this is a thing for you. But she also knew it wasn't then. She told me that. She said, I knew I wasn't supposed to right then, but I knew I was supposed to. Fantastic. It's not in my time. It's in hers. It's between her and the Lord, right? That's where it's at. So I said, great. Normally, I would encourage, let's do this right now. I have a baptismal in my home where we were, right? I could have just filled it up with water. It would have been cold, but no one cares about the cold when you're doing it for the Lord. But I said, I think your parents would really want to be there. I know they would. I said, so how about we wait? We'll figure out a day. Now, I almost got removed from this. She told me, she's like, I want you and my dad to do it. And she wanted it to be small scale. She didn't want a massive audience. It wasn't about the people. It was about her accepting salvation and coming out of that water as a new person, getting clean of whatever she's done. And so we set up a tentative date, but I almost got removed because I had to go to Florida. I felt that pull. And me and TJ went. And when I was tossing back and forth the idea of staying down there for Sukkot, we were going to baptize this young lady on Sukkot sometime. And it would have ruined that. But I also told her, I said, I'm confident that somebody will fill this void if I'm not able to be there. So, long story short, the Father told me I didn't have to stay in Florida. He made a way for that to work out. And so I came back, and yesterday we got the chance to finally go down to the water. It was a beautiful day. Went to a body of water outside. Again, we got some witnesses together. And I watched this young lady and her dad walk ahead of me. Now, typically, I walk right with the person we're baptizing until we get to the spot where we're going to pray and we're going to ask some questions, kind of check in, right? And then we're going to go to the water. But it was a beautiful moment to not be up there, where I was kind of lingering back a little bit and I was walking barefoot on a rock. There's something about, I want this minor pain as we're going down to the water. I typically walk barefoot the last bit, so I feel it. And that's just something for me. So I'm looking at this young lady and her dad walking, and her dad's a good man who loves the Lord. And you could just see, I don't have to hear any of it, but you can just see the moment where it not only means a lot to her spiritually, it also means a lot to her physically that her dad is there. But then you can see that it means a lot to her dad. Her mom was there as well. It was a beautiful moment. And so I eventually catch up to him. I ask my standard questions. And we go down in the water after her dad prays for her. And we all kind of put hands on everybody. And we go in the water and we baptize her. And again, typically with guys, I've got to participate with baptizing several wives by this point, and now this is the first daughter other than my own. You kind of hug it out, right? There's something powerful about that. I waited. I was like, no, the first hug coming out of this water isn't mine. And so I just stood there for a minute, and then she hugged her dad pretty long, and it was beautiful, and you could see it was powerful. And then when that was done, I was like, hey, give me a hug too, kid. We love you. And I hugged her too. go back to the shore. I called out like normal. It's like, hey, is there anybody else? Is there anybody else? And there was nobody else. But that's okay, because I'm all about the one more, man. We're looking to delay death for one more person. We're looking to render aid to one more person. We're looking to help baptize or witness to or serve one more. And then we can worry about the second one or the third. We do it one at a time. And I love, genuinely, the moments where I didn't have to plan anything, which I don't usually anyway. I didn't have to force it. I didn't have to try. The Father just interjected himself in my home in a pretty unusual environment. We had never had an all-girls sleepover with these teenage young ladies there too. That's never happened. But apparently it was supposed to. Think in your own life. What conversations, what environments do you need to help facilitate? For some of the soon-to-be adults in your life, for some of these questions, guys, they're black and white answers. Have you ever given your life to Christ? Can you identify a moment in time where it was real, where you gave up everything? You said, I'm done being me. I want to serve you. And then can you identify a moment where you got in the water and had that ceremony of baptism where you go in the water and you are dead raised to life? And if the answer is no to either of those, you have some stuff to do. It's okay, but we don't know how much time we have. Don't waste another second if you're not sure. It's okay. If you're not sure, well, I don't know if I gave my life. Cool, then we can have these conversations. Email me at twitch@refugetraining.com and I will respond. And if you're not sure, if for some reason baptism was a sprinkling on the forehead as a baby that you didn't choose for yourself, that you don't even remember, or that whatever. As a child, at 5 years old, guys, I thought I was going to get to go swim in front of a congregation. That's what I was excited about. That is not what baptism is about. So therefore, it did not mean what it was supposed to mean. Just getting in the water isn't the point. It's about the why. It's about the commitment. So at 5 years old, I didn't understand that. At 22 years old, I think it was actually 23. I was 23 by that time. I understood then. I understood what kind of man I was. I understood what kind of man I was then. And I understood why there was a change. All glory to the Father, guys. Feel free to use that email if you need to. Twitch@refugetraining.com. Might be a few days till I get to you, just because we're during Sukkot. I don't constantly check my phone, but I will respond. Bless you guys. Have those conversations with people and do it in love. Don't force feed somebody the Bible. Live the testimony, guys. Let them see Christ when they look at you. I'll see you later.